going on, everyone? It's your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and welcome to another episode of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide, a Premio podcast. It's good to be back in the hot seat after a little time off, but we are hitting the ground running with a limited webinar series here where we're going to be breaking down Premio's product portfolio. If you've been tagging along to the Rugged Edge Survival Guide for a while, you know that we like to get into the weeds on major trends that are shaping the edge computing market, right? This limited series is going to be a little more practical in connecting those trends with specific Premio products. We're not only going to be hearing from our go-to guest, Mr. Dustin Seetoo, who we'll introduce here in a sec, but we're also going to be hearing from the larger Premio product marketing team as they dig into each of their product suites and break down how they align with specific trends that are shaping the edge computing market, as well as the various user edges that are maturing in the industry today. So we've got a lot in store for you. We're going to connect the dots for you so that you can feel empowered to help build out your edge computing use cases. Before we jump in, though, make sure you're heading to premioinc.com. Again, that's premioinc.com for previous episodes of the show, as well as other useful resources like the ebook that Premio released not too long ago with a pulse check on major trends shaping the market and other really incredible resources. You might see a familiar face on a lot of those as well. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our introductory episode here with Mr. Dustin Seetoo, Director of Product Marketing at Premio. He's going to help give us the high-level overview of what's setting the stage as we dig into this sort of user edge-specific look at Premio's product suite. Dustin, welcome back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. It's always great to jump on a podcast with you, but I'm extremely excited this time. Time flies. I mean, I think the last time we spoke, we were releasing an ebook, so we were really excited about that. But most importantly, why we're back as Premio, we're really excited from the product marketing team, the engineering team, to put together this webinar series. What we're really focusing on is really positioning and segmentating our product portfolio for the edge computing market for the remaining part of the year and into 2025. So just a little bit of some pulse checks about where Premio is. We've gotten some great feedback from our ebook. You would be surprised something as so simple as just kind of going over the market trends, providing data, giving them projection on how your products are related to a specific market is actually very valuable for some of our key clients and customers. So I'm very happy to say I'm proud of the product marketing team that ebook that we kicked off at the beginning of this year has been helpful as a guide and a resource for the edge computing market. But some other major updates that are extremely important for Premio that I just wanted to share and kick off is that we actually reached a major milestone for Premio. We crossed our 35th anniversary. So let's give a round of applause. So that's definitely not easy. All right. 3 decades of a lot of expertise. And with that threshold, right, and that milestone, we actually crossed 3 million computers built, integrated, and deployed in 3 regions all over the world. And that's with one mission, right, is built rugged, built ready computing solutions. A second major update is that we actually, as Premio, with our new NVIDIA Jetson line, has been inducted to NVIDIA's ecosystem partnership. So with this is basically an array of hardware partners that are leveraging the Jetson design architecture and bringing a product into market to really solve edge AI challenges. Third, we actually launched our YouTube channel. So a lot of content, videos, resources, technical deep dives can now be found on our YouTube channel. So please make sure to subscribe and like our videos. And then most importantly, why this webinar series is so important is to really highlight the products that we've launched in 2024. And some of those are our RCO series, which uses Intel's 13th gen Raptor Lake for our x86 super rugged industrial computers. Second, it's our BCO series, which is our Intel 13th gen x86 semi-rugged industrial computers. And one of the most important products as well is our JCO series. And like I mentioned, by being inducted into NVIDIA's Jetson ecosystem, the JCO series actually combines NVIDIA's newest technology with GPU, ARM, memory, all integrated into an architecture and put together to deliver TOPS performance with I/O into the market. And just a little bit of a sneak peek, we have a few trade shows coming up for the remaining part of the year, and we are still continuously going to launch 2 new products, and those are going to be a new industrial panel touchscreen and a open frame touchscreen. So these are some major key updates that tie into what Premio has been doing, and we continuously pushing forward for 2024 and into 2025.
YouTube channel is exciting. Love seeing y'all, expand the reach of some of your content, if only selfishly, because I'm in so much of it as well. So exciting to, tap into some new audiences too. And I know that our Premio audience here can expect more good content and collaboration between the two of us and between the whole team, as I'll be boots on the ground on some of those trade shows with y'all as well, helping showcase the new products that you're launching and how they fit into these major trends. So thanks for the update. I definitely encourage folks to go check out that ebook if they haven't read it yet. It's a really important pulse check, like we said, on the state of the market and the major forces that are shaping edge computing solutions, needs, use cases, right? But speaking of, let's go ahead and start to dive into our product-focused webinar here by setting that stage a little better. Again, last time we spoke was like Q3 of last year. So now we're here, summer of 2024. The industrial edge computing market is booming. It was booming in Q3. It's still booming, and it really isn't showing any signs of slowing down. If anything, we're starting to find more and more practical use cases to validate the maturity of the market. So what are some of the market segments that you're seeing really accelerate growth around edge computing today? If you had to pick and choose some of the big ones that, mid 2024, they're really carrying things forward.
So before I go into kind of those market segments, I would definitely agree. The edge computing market is booming, keyword being booming. But let me provide some more context around that market from the opinion and as a manufacturer of industrial computing hardware for now over 35 years. I would say the most important thing that everyone is starting to see mainstream wise is this next age of computing that's leveraging AI. So AI is an extremely hot topic. AI is being used in so many different discussion topic points in technology, all the way up to business. But in my personal opinion, I do believe it's early, but we are in what is defined as a hype cycle, especially for generative AI. I'm sure you've heard of generative AI and what it can do. Just to kind of share an interesting story since the last time we spoke, I have the great opportunity to actually go back to Taiwan for their Computex show. It's one of the leading trade shows for computing, and it sits at the hub where all the semiconductors are designed. So all the major leaders from AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, these major tier one type of companies are there to promote their computing technology. And when I was there, what was most interesting, that hype of AI was explosive. Like you would have AI at every single booth. Everyone was talking about what they were doing with AI. And I can't believe it. Like you would see mobs of people following here and there. And this is to this day, I still don't believe it, but I never thought that tech CEOs would be like rock stars. I'm telling you, it was incredible. Like you would think they would be like Kardashians, but when you would see mobs roam around and you would ask what's going on, it would be Jensen Huang from NVIDIA. It would be Lisa Su from AMD, right? Pat Gelsinger from Intel. So these tech CEOs have so much on their shoulders, but you can explain like what I learned from that experience was it's a major hype, and we're still kind of in this hype cycle. So are you familiar with what the hype cycle is?
At a high level, yeah. But let me see if I got it right here. I mean, the hype cycle, usually the way I interpret it is often there's going to be huge hype around a new product or a new technology. It's going to get a lot of investor attention. It's going to spike, and then the bubble bursts, it drops, and that's when you actually start to see the steady growth around it as the real players and the real solutions come into focus. Thoughts? Did I hit it?
Yeah, well done. Really, that's pretty good. But to kind of give more concrete like definitions of the hype cycle, so I'll kind of defer to Gartner. Gartner is a leading market research analyst, and what I like about their research is that they put a lot of these new technologies into a hype cycle, right? So that hype cycle looks kind of like what you mentioned is like this bell curve, and then it kind of goes up, right? So the first major phase of this hype cycle is the innovation trigger, right? It's the technology trigger. This is where it's extremely hyped. The entire media is talking about, all the tech companies are talking about. So there's this big expectation of what's going to happen, right? So at the peak of that bell, like we mentioned, is that, okay, what are the real results? What's actually happening? And then you actually reach a peak of inflated expectation. And then third is this, you go through this kind of trough of disillusionment. And then people start to realize, they take a step back. They're like, oh, wait, that's a little bit of a hype. All right, there's a lot more things that really need to happen in order for this technology needs to happen. And then you go into this like slope of enlightenment, which is, okay, yes, productivity is happening. There's POCs, real test pilots of applications being deployed. And then from there, you actually reach a level of productivity. So the point I'm trying to make is that generative AI is still in this hype cycle, right? We're still maybe 5 to 10 years out. But how I want to really position our discussion is that there are technologies or markets that are really driving this slope of enlightenment, where you're starting to see real productivity happening in these type of deployments. And as an OEM manufacturer of compute, we see this, right? We're closer to the demands of what these applications are. And what those markets would be, number one being edge compute and edge AI. So this trend has been going on for quite some time, but just to kind of make it very easy, what edge AI and edge compute is basically doing is that you're shifting a lot of this compute power traditionally, which had the resources in the cloud, right? And it's moving this processing closer to a lot of these IoT sensors. And then from there, once you have the decision making and compute power close to the data, you're able to deliver in low latency processing, real-time decision making, and leveraging AI models that are been trained and that can do a lot of this inference detection with the power of AI. So that's one market. I would say another major application that's kind of in the slope of enlightenment, right, in that hype, and actually becoming more productive is computer vision. So computers to us have basically been at our fingertips for quite some time. So the technology is not new. But what's new is the horsepower, the technology, right? Each reiteration of that generation, the technology gets faster, gets better. And with that, that's where you're able to combine a lot of these newer sensors with the power of compute to push forward this surge of edge computing models, industry 4.0 technologies, right? And that is really where the potential is. And how I want to back this up is with some key statistics that the market has kind of presented. So I say this all the time in our ebook. I've said this in past podcasts, but I always want to kind of refresh, right? So the overall market of edge compute is projected to grow to about 320 to 325 billion by 2026. We're almost there, right? So 2 more years, that's a huge market. And that's about an 18% compound annual growth rate. Another major fact that's interesting is that 75 billion IoT devices are going to be coming online by 2025. So that's a lot of devices, but everything, think about it, right? From your robot vacuum that's kind of going around your apartment or condo or house, to what now is defined as the AI PC on factory floors that are driving a lot of the robotics for extreme amount of productivity and efficiency. And the last data point is the processing of the data is actually 75% of that data is going to be moved away from the cloud and processed at the edge. And that's incredibly important because you're now starting to see why compute is so important and why it needs to sit closer in an edge computing model. So that's our goal as Premio, right? Just to better understand where the market is, what are the demands are. And then like I mentioned, for the last 35 plus years, our engineering team, core focus on compute, have refined not only our design, our products, our manufacturing processes, but we really have honed our capabilities to define that. So everything from electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, BIOS, firmware engineering, and even like the most important is the compliance side of the engineering, really pushing forward a product that is safe, reliable, that meets rugged certifications, right? That is the way we position ourselves into the market with high-speed volume deployment for precision quality.
So, I mean, the opportunities for edge computing are boundless. You broke down so many, innovative use cases where edge computing is being put to work to prove itself as a necessary part of this, sort of mass digitalization of our basic consumer services all the way to industrial output, right? But if we look at just some of those commercial applications, I think we can start to see really some unique growth around edge computing, and also some of the trends that are starting to define more segmentation around edge computing's maturity as it starts to fork into different unique use cases, right? So some of the ones that stand out to me are segments like asset management, autonomous operations, freight monitoring. These are segments that are putting edge computing to work, and in a lot of ways are leading edge computing adoption, right? So I'm curious, with so many potential use cases like you broke down for edge computing, why are some of those commercial segments leading the way in edge computing adoption, and what can we learn from how edge computing is being put to work in things like asset management, autonomous operations, freight monitoring, etc.?
Yeah, so these are some very good key segments that are definitely showing prominent growth because the edge computing model of where processing needs to be away from the cloud, closer to these sensors. So a lot of these applications that you mentioned require on some type of machine-to-machine sensors that ping back to a compute that does some type of processing, some type of acquisition, or running some type of application. But more importantly, what I want to do is, there's many more applications. I think what's important is to really define the key principles on what these applications are doing to make them successful that are applied across most successful edge computing models. So one would be the benefit of real-time data processing and analysis. Like I mentioned, once you have a rugged, reliable computer sitting closer to where the data is being generated, you can do the real-time processing without any latency in place. Second would be the ultra-low latency reduction and better bandwidth without the reliance on the cloud, right? Imagine having to send data back and forth in the cloud for something that needs to be a real-time decision. It would take way too long. Third, a major one is enhanced security and privacy. This is only going to become more important, right? With more devices coming online, 75 billion, specifically. If you're able to do a lot of the processing locally without having to send the data back and forth, that eliminates the attack points or the point of entry. So you can actually have better security and privacy. Fourth would be the scalability and the flexibility. So with a lot of these newer devices, right, you can actually use those resources to create a mesh network of so many different machines that are relying on each other to ping intelligent data, and you basically get machine-to-machine communication. And I would say the most important thing with newer technologies, newer models, is this performance to cost ratio, right? The hardware that is being designed specifically from our perspective. We look at the best throughput per dollar, right? And how we look at this is we actually look at everything from the performance, how much energy it's using, the space it's going to take, the weight, right? All these are key factors that are tied into these type of applications like asset management, autonomous operations, freight monitoring. But most importantly, right, all those things that tie together, I think there's one key defining principle, and the keyword there is the autonomy, right? It's all about building out the closed loop of autonomy to where you can eliminate some of the human labor to where the machine is now able to do a lot of the decision making before the humans and get better as it learns more of the data, right? And a lot of the technology that's driving this to create the autonomy is edge AI, computer vision, combined with machine learning. And that is where the machine now has situational awareness to make the decisions for that closed loop of autonomy.
So with that maturity of use cases then, right, how are these use cases and the larger just sort of natural maturity we're seeing in edge computing development alongside major trends like Industry 4.0, like OT-IT convergence, the adoption of edge AI, these other sort of peripheral trends that are pushing edge computing to the forefront as a needed solution, as a needed piece of the infrastructure to support these sort of next phases of production. How are some of those use cases and the maturity of those use cases influencing the edge computing industry's user side specializations, right? As we start to see these use cases sort of cement themselves and crystallize as consistent ones, the solutions themselves, the edge computers, are needing to adapt to certain specifications, certain, rugged edge environments, right? So how are you seeing that play out in practice? And what are some of these use cases making clear about some of the necessary distinctions in the user edge, in that sort of edge continuum? Where are those distinctions becoming clear and more necessary?
If you do go back and look at our ebook, we really define how the data pathway moves from the cloud out to the user edge in the edge continuum. But first, before I dive into how the edge continuum is important and how Premio has segmented our products at the user edge, let's dive into what makes industrial computing in some of these principles that are making these trends that you mentioned, like Industry 4.0, OT, IT convergence, Edge AI, so prevalent for these catalysts of these applications. So it's important to recognize, number one, the future of edge computing is tied to this new level of AI and edge computing. You have this synergy of intelligent neural networks that have been trained in the cloud, right? Once the model has been trained in the cloud and open source, right, this model is intelligent. It's able to be moved into an environment where it can now interact with that data, and that's where the edge computing comes into play, right? Once that model or AI model gets moved out of the cloud closer to data, it can actually make decisions in real time, right? And without being tired like a human, and it can do it 24/7 and create incredible 24/7 productivity and efficiency. Second is this would not be possible without the critical role of semiconductors. On the back end, if you truly, and for us, we're hardware vendors, we really go deep into the hardware architecture. Semiconductors are extremely important because that is where your hardware acceleration and performance is coming into play to drive the machine learning models. And that's why you have a symbiotic relationship between hardware and software. And that's where you're now starting to see more heterogeneous compute architectures that are power efficient, that deliver the necessary domain specific performance for specific AI models. Third, is this what you mentioned, rise of OT to IT convergence. OT is defined as operational technology. IT is this informational technology. There's this convergence of that, right? So with the rise of digital transformation, this industry 4.0 technologies on OT are your eyes and ears on factory floors. These are the ones that are your senses, right? These are the sensors that are bringing in the data. But where this convergence is happening is that you need to move that data into something that has a brain or compute power. And that compute power is able to deliver the data management with real-time monitoring, right? Perception systems to really push forward performance and make business decisions without the human. And then the fourth cherry on top, right, of why this convergence of technology is happening is the network flexibility at the edge. You're getting faster, low latency, more bandwidth connectivity, wireless connectivity specifically from 5G, 4G LTE, and then Wi-Fi 6E, right? These Ethernet type of connections provide an enormous amount of super low latency, low latency. And then you're starting to see this take place in a lot of more public and private edge to cloud deployments. So how I want to tie this into the edge continuum is, big shout out not only to go look at our ebook, but a big shout out to the Linux Foundation, because out of all the research that I've been looking at, I think the Linux Foundation, which is an open source for a lot of these technologists and leadership, they provided probably one of the best breakdowns of the edge continuum. And how the edge continuum is basically broken out in principle is on the right side of the screen, you'll have the cloud. And the cloud has been prominent for the last, decade or so. That's where all the AI models have been trained. That's where a lot of the workloads have been moved into. That's where cloud computing has been, all the hyperscalers have been kind of growing from that specific thing. But where the shift is now happening is as you move down that edge continuum from the cloud into the internet edge, you're moving what we define as you're moving more downlink, right? Downlink in terms of the data path. And you're moving into two key segments that are important for what edge computing is. Number one would be that service edge, right? So this service edge, think of it as it's still compute. It's all server based, more high performance, but it's tied to the telecommunication providers. So telecommunication powers with the telco towers. These are the guys that are actually doing all the networking, moving the data from the cloud back and forth out to the edge. And they actually provide what is defined as that like critical last mile networking. And that last mile networking is what really bridges the gap between these edge devices like IoT sensors, gateways, and industrial PCs. And the last major segment is where Premio is specifically focused in, is that user edge. So the user edge sits farther away from the cloud, and it's made up of rugged, localized computing and sits as close to the IoT sensors as possible. And like I mentioned, this is where you're able to deliver the performance, interact with that data, and actually do the inferencing that's required for the AI. So most importantly, in that edge continuum, if you kind of look at the screen, right, from the cloud all the way out to the user edge and the smart edge, what we as Premio wanted to do and what we wanted to define and position and segment our products even more to really help our audience, right, and help our clients better understand our products, is to actually carve out specific user edge buckets or segments that are even more clear for our products. And what we have defined at the user edge is that we've broken it into three key positions. One being the industrial edge, the rugged edge, and last, the specialized edge.
And I think those distinctions are really important, right? They are going to not only reflect the realities that edge computing solutions need to, adapt to some of the specific use cases that are crystallizing around edge computing in these industrial, commercial, and even consumer settings. But it's also important sometimes to lead the way a little bit to predict some of this segmentation, and maybe a little bit early on formalizing that segmentation so that the market can mature in a more efficient and productive way, and so that edge computing use cases and edge computing solutions can align earlier, right? Instead of having to go through that trial and error process. And I feel like Premio does this really well. Y'all set the trend on, a lot of this understanding of the evolution of the market. I mean, even down to the rugged edge being something that Premio really planted its flag in early and helped define for the industry. So let's go ahead and break down some of those core three slices then of the user edge that y'all are defining. These are coming into focus for the whole industry, and y'all are helping further define them with more accuracy. So again, let's break these down and explain why it's important to segment the user edge into some of these buckets. So again, we have the industrial edge, the rugged edge, and the specialized edge. Let's go one by one. Why don't we start with the industrial edge?
Sure. So let me also preface that, like, a lot of this is not black and white. There's no right answer, right? As an OEM industrial computing manufacturer, our goal is to help our audience, our clientele, better understand and position the edge continuum, because it's an explosive growing market. So our job is to really help carve out segments, to really help position our products, to help them eliminate pain or challenges that they can quickly solve their challenge or problem by leveraging our compute. So number one being the industrial edge. What that is, think of it as the industrial edge potentially sitting in a factory floor with automation equipment, right? And this bucket has some key requirements that we as Premio has defined that's important based on our real world customers, real world case studies. So some of those requirements are oftentimes, it's going to be in somewhat of a controlled environment, not as controlled as the cloud that has so much redundancy in place, but controlled environments to where a technician or person can still access the computer. Second would be like flexible performance. You have the ability to, being in a controlled environment, go to high performance, or if you need something that's a little bit less performance, you have that ability. The thermal regulation, extremely important. So passive or active cooling is actually something that's important. You have ubiquitous IoT connectivity, right? In a controlled environment, factory floor, how are you utilizing the machine-to-machine communication between IoT sensors and how it communicates to devices that are actually doing the aggregation, processing, telemetry? Connectivity now, right? Wireless connectivity. You have in-band and out-of-band connectivity for remote management. In-band is good because you're constantly connected, but potentially if there is something offline on the network, you have the ability to move to out-of-band connectivity for, remote management for mission critical applications. And overall, like I mentioned, the cost to performance ratio, right? Standardized form factors that save on energy, space, right? You have a flexible selection from that. So now let me move kind of that user edge, right? We define the industrial edge. So what is what we have also carved out as a bucket as the rugged edge, right? So defining what it is, the rugged edge, like what Premio has been focused on in the last 35 years is ruggedized computing solutions. And we recognize that this specific area is extremely important. So what this is different than your factory floor. Think of the environments where it could be more remote, or even in mobile applications where people or technicians do not have the ability to access the computer. So when they don't have the ability to access the computer, it's oftentimes more mission critical. And what defines that is going to be extreme environments. Your power is not as stable, so your efficiency on your power and performance ratio needs to be keen. In terms of cooling, right, it can be in environments where it's outdoors, or it could be hot, it could be cold. So how you actually regulate the temperature of components or electronics is extremely important through a fanless cooling design. Reinforced durability, right? Being able to have something that's strong for a lot of this wide operating temperature, shock vibration, power input. I/O customization, right? So we as Premio brought to market our Edge Boost I/O technology. This Edge Boost I/O technology is modular, right? So it really is application specific to kind of mix and match what I/O is necessarily needed for the application. And then in the wireless connectivity side, right? Now you have out of band connectivity, out of band the ability for roam management when there is an issue with the actual connectivity. And oftentimes when you move into an extreme environments, right, that are not as controlled, the design potentially is more proprietary, but this proprietary design is a lot of this purpose-built ruggedization. And then last but not least, what we also have carved out in our 3-bucket design from industrial edge, rugged edge, and now is also what we call the specialized edge. The specialized edge is extremely unique, and it's extremely unique because it's highly critical for industry certifications in order to even be successful to deploy the hardware. So industry certifications being, in order to even have a computer that can run in this type of environment, it has to go through a stringent certification process. So for example, you have EN 50155 for railway or rolling stock electronic devices. You have EN 45545 for like fire safety. A C1D2 for class 1 division 2 explosion proof for a lot of oil and gas environments. And then you have like a lot of this ingress protection, right? So environments where there's often moisture, water, you can actually push products into IP ratings up to 69K. So yeah, just to kind of summarize, Edge Continuum, where Premio is positioned, we're at the user edge. We are confident where our product's placed, and we actually have carved that out to help our audience better understand that there's an industrial edge, rugged edge, now specialized edge. And then as this series continues to evolve, each product marketer is going to go into which products fits into those buckets.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see everyone's presentations on this as they dig into their product suite, where they fit in that edge continuum, and also understanding how some of the leading focus applications for edge computing are defining those user edges in practice, right? So some of those key focus applications, you mentioned them earlier in the discussion, but they include things like edge AI, right? Machine and computer vision, predictive maintenance, smart cities, smart agriculture. There's a lot of key, again, focus applications that are helping define that user edge and its various slices. So with that in mind, I wanted to just open up discussion here to close things out by looking at some of those focus applications. So if you had to connect the dots a little bit for us, maybe tease out what we're going to see in some of the future presentations, how is Premio designing its product suite to solve challenges specific across those user edge slices and connected to and solving, the specific needs of some of these focus applications like smart agriculture or something, for example?
Yeah, so ultimately, the growing demand for more and more reliable computing solutions for edge computing, what Premio is doing is our portfolio addresses a lot of these key demands by providing strong, rugged, robust, off-the-shelf products that have been certified and that can be purchased very quickly and moved into market for a solution. So in another way, think of them as building blocks, right? Building blocks for specific parts of the edge continuum from the cloud all the way out to the edge. And then within our 3-segment bucket of industrial edge, rugged edge, and specialized edge, we are going to position specific product lines of ours to sit in that bucket. So overall, kind of in conclusion, right, really to kind of give a 30-second pitch, right, is what Premio does best is that we specialize in cutting edge computing solutions, offering unparalleled reliability, performance, and customization. So all our products can range from high performance servers, rugged industrial PCs, rugged touch displays, and board level building blocks that are actually the success of a lot of the customers' backbone that rely on Premio computing solutions.
And now, as y'all are going into the product design process as well, what are some of the unique considerations that have to go into that process to match user edge needs to specific devices? Like if you just had to hone in on, obviously these are, complex solutions, but even just looking at one piece of them, one layer, how do you go about working through the process of matching those specs to the specific needs on specific devices for specific applications?
It's been 3 decades of our core capability and our expertise on learning about compute. But we do this really by tapping into an ecosystem of leading transformative technologies. And right, it's not just one single person doing everything. It's really understanding the market and how to leverage certain technologies to build a computing system that is able to manage an array of workload consolidation. So how we do this in practice for business, right? We have strong partnerships with the leading technology vendors. And as an original equipment manufacturer for compute, we are actually sitting closer to the end user, right? We hear their pain, we hear their challenges. We need to figure out what they need from a compute standpoint, take that, digest that, and then actually go back and look at the technology, right? And see how we can develop a product or a reliable, rugged product that meets the time to market, but most importantly, helps the overall customer and their total cost of ownership on the business side, right? But from a technology side, how do we focus our efforts on engineering? There's some things that are very, very key and important, is that you need to make sure the computer has the ability now, right, to meet these AI models that are moving away from the cloud out to the edge. And you're able to do that with a lot of this AI inferencing, machine learning, with the latest hardware acceleration and accelerators that you tap into. So everything from your CPU silicon, your GPU silicon, TPU silicon, all these domain-specific architectures are pushing forward heterogeneous compute specifically for real-time processing. We also do this in the latest technologies of high-speed memory for better cache, or volatile cache, and then high-speed storage like NVMe to actually have data redundancy for faster read and write speeds. Wireless connectivity is only going to be more important as you move out from you move out in the edge continuum, right? Especially at the rugged edge or the industrial edge. So having the ability for low latency wireless connectivity with Wi-Fi 6E, 4G LTE, and now even 5G, you're going to have explosive machine to machine communication and sub-millimeter type of wireless connectivity. And then most importantly is when you have these IoT sensors coming in and out of the box, the IO throughput, input, output, throughput, and the ability to communicate with these sensors is extremely important. So you need to have the IoT connectivity with the computer to feed the data into a solution that is going to solve a lot of these newer age challenges.
All right, Dustin, we've set the stage. Now it's time for the rest of the product marketing team to take it away as they break down their slices of the Premio product suite and connect them with the various slices of the user edge that Premio is helping define for the industry. Before we totally wrap up here today, I want to leave our audience with a note for how they should start to think about approaching their unique edge computing needs, where Premio fits into that equation, and really the headspace they should be operating in to trying to determine where in that user edge are they, and where in that user edge is their need and their use case, what products might align, right? So what kind of advice would you give for where professionals looking to put edge computing to work for their industry, their company, where should they be looking to get started, right? To figure out which type of edge computing solution is right for their use case so that they don't undershoot or overshoot or, misalign their solution with their actual needs.
Yeah, so I would like to kind of highlight the importance, right? Don't believe the hype. And I say that because in the beginning of this discussion, right, really understanding where technology is in the hype cycle. Sometimes there are too many things that get pushed into the hype, and potentially you could be an early adopter that potentially is not as early. But to really answer your question, right, where should customers or where should end users be looking? I think you do pay attention to the system builders like Premio, because the system builders have to be able to look into the hype, digest the hype, and really invest their time, resources into developing a product that meets the demands of the market. And how they're able to do that is going back and actually dealing with real customers, real challenges, right? Where we are the ones sitting there listening to their pain points and combining the technology that's needed to put together a product that is not only fit for the market, but overall helps a total cost of ownership for the entire deployment. But most importantly, I think the quick solution, right, for computing, and if you need a computing expert, is to really tap into the Premio resources that we have. We have a wealth of industry knowledge from white papers. We have an ebook that really goes into the top level. Our information on our website is extremely thorough. We have blogs that go into key technologies. But most importantly, right, after you go through all that, you can contact our sales team, our expert computing experts. They have the ability to really kind of listen to your pain points, right, understand how to fit and position and configure a product that's going to be best fit for the industrial edge, rugged edge, or even the specialized edge.
And per usual, I will point our audience to premioinc.com. Again, premioinc.com for more resources to help them maneuver, their onboarding ramp, of taking on edge computing solutions for their needs. And what's exciting is that we're really just getting started on getting really practical with some of the new additions to your product suite. And again, how they fit into some of the the major use cases that are defining the larger edge computing market today. So we've got some good presentations coming up, but we'll go ahead and wrap things up for now. Dustin Seetoo, Director of Product Marketing at Premio, thank you so much for your time and your perspectives today, helping set the stage for our coming presentations here with the rest of the team. I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts here after we're all done with those presentations and continuing our thought leadership. Any final words here for our audience?
Just thank you again for following the Premio journey. We only have more content to come, more thought leadership to come. And again, 35th anniversary, over 3 decades of computing expertise. So you know where to contact us, premioinc.com, and hope to hear from you soon and see you out there in the computing field.
Love it. All right, Dustin, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, and we'll chat again soon.
Cool. Thank you, Daniel.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide, this introduction to our limited series on the Premio product suite, as we break down how each product fits into a different user edge in the edge continuum and how they're helping define the crystallization and maturity of the edge computing market. We'll be back with more presentations from the Premio product marketing team. But till then, I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B. Make sure you're heading to premioinc.com for more episodes of the show and other resources. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide.